I don't believe in fate. I think that it robs us of agency. It's a pet peeve when someone says to me something was meant to be or that everything happens for a reason. And that's an important little preface to the story I'm going to tell you, which is all about how I met my husband, Barry. We've been together for 22 years, and there are lots of stories I could tell, but this is probably the all-time favorite. This concept of agency is exactly what I was studying back in 2003 in a PhD program at Stanford in what was my second and soon to be final year of this program, specifically what pre-verbal small babies understood about agency. And we'd put on these little puppet shows with green blobs, and then we would check to see if the baby would follow the gaze of the green puppet and see if that they were attributing to it some kind of agency or free will. I was also in the second and what would soon to be my last year of a marriage that started way too young and was ending. So I decided I should get out there and start dating. A short while later, I received a random email from somebody I had never met. And since this was 2003, random emails from strangers were still not that common. And it said, "Hi, you don't know me, but I would like to invite you to an informal salon at my house, together with some other graduate students from Stanford, where we will bloviate about matters of the day." And so I thought to myself two things. First of all, what does bloviate mean? I had to look it up, and it turns out it means to discuss things pompously. Okay. And the second was like, this wasn't my invitation, where I still had to go retrieve one. All right. But with my newfound resolution to get out there and meet people, I decided to take the bait, even though I thought probably I was the subject of a social psych experiment from my colleagues down the hall. And Daniel wrote back and he said, "Okay, go to the Stanford bookstore, go downstairs to the photo processing department, 2003, and ask for Stephanie. Stephanie will give you your invitation." So I giggled my way on over to the Stanford bookstore and I asked for Stephanie. And Stephanie opened the cash register and reached under the cash and handed me a wax sealed invitation. I cracked the seal, opened it up, and there was some beautiful stationery with a gold paisley border, but didn't quite fit right. So it had to be like folded a couple times and shoved into the envelope. And the invitation read, "You are cordially invited to an informal salon at blah, 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 Tasso Street, Palo Alto. Please dress monochromatically or otherwise if you wish. You may bring one guest along, not of your same discipline. Please, our sweetie, blah, blah, blah." Okay, so this was going to be in December, which is not the easiest time for graduate students, but I went for it. I brought my cousin as insurance and I wore green. And I showed up to a gorgeous large home in downtown Palo Alto, definitely not the digs I was used to seeing other graduate students live in, and rang the doorbell. And this young man, Daniel Minkowitz, opened the door, and he was wearing a powder blue blazer with brass buttons, had pencil thin facial hair, and a silk cravat. And he welcomed us into his living room, which was filled with bookshelves and antique furniture, baby grand piano, carafes of liquor. And it was clear that Daniel was 21 and we were in mommy and daddy's house. And I know because his mom brought us some tempura at some point as a snack. And so we sat down and the bloviation began. And a couple of my favorite gems from the evening were when Daniel said, "I think Selma Hayek has the best rack in Hollywood. What do you think?" Or, "Does anybody know any tall, skinny, blonde women? Because I'm looking for models for my new hobby I'm starting in photography." So that was going on. I was twiddling my thumbs, but there was this guy there, Barry, and he was sitting next to me talking to this artist friend of Daniel's whose incomplete line drawings we had just critiqued as a group. And he said to me, "Hi, I'm Barry. What do you do?" And I told him, "I study agency," and figured his eyes would glaze over and he'd be totally bored. But as I explained about the green blob puppets, he started to get increasingly more interested because Barry was in a PhD program in drama and he had a thing for puppets. So we kept talking and suddenly we hear Daniel say, "I think I have more in common with a kid from the barrio in East LA than with the landed aristocracy of the South." And Barry looks at me, rolls his eyes, and says, "This from a man wearing a silk cravat and daddy's house. Exchanged more words and more roll dice, and we parted our ways to ring in the new year. And then in January, I came back and I got another unexpected email, this time from Barry. And we had not exchanged information at this event. However, we did both peek at the sign-in book on the way out. Again, 2003, we still had sign-in books. We agreed that we had to get together and debrief on this crazy experience that we just had. And so we did. And it was there that I learned, Barry told me he had found out from Daniel how we even got this invitation in the first place, because there weren't that many people there. And apparently what Daniel had done was look at every single graduate department at Stanford, their webpage, and he chose one interesting person from each department to invite. So anybody's guess why Daniel Minkowitz would invite Mirit Cohen to his event at his house. Apparently Barry Kendall from Drama was making a funny face. And so that's how we got our invitations. And how many people do you think he invited? How many departments were there back then? Maybe 30, 40 different people, different departments. And out of all of them, how many do you think showed up? 2. Me and my future husband, Barry. So I know what you're probably thinking right about now. It was fate. It was meant to be, right? But I already told you it's my pet peeve. I don't like that. I think it robs us of agency. There's a little more to this story. So a few months later, I was throwing Barry a birthday party for his 30th birthday, and we thought it would be funny to invite Daniel and show him what became of his experiment in bloviation. So we added him to the Evite, and he declined, but he left us a comment, and it said, "I don't know who you people are or why you invited me to your party!" So we got another good chuckle out of that. My friends, my wisdom to you is this. If you want to create your own destiny, do not put your future in the hands of fate. You have to be open to new experiences, pay attention, act with intention, and when a door opens, it's you that has to decide whether to walk through it or not.